Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efene. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Rufai.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, we'll start the review with this day Nigeria's newspaper of record. The lead story, Ayu, only PDP NEC can suspend me. Those Goading ward executives are ignorant. Wike support suspension, says chairman should have left. Court restrains party national chair from parading himself as one. Yes, sounds very familiar. But other newspapers are also reporting this story, and we'll just look at how other newspapers are reporting the story. The Nigerian Tribune reporting this story. Court stops Ayu as PDP chairman. My suspension by ward executive exercise in futility. Ayu, fight has just started. Wike tells Ayu. Now, the Punch newspaper, Ayu must go. G5 governors, Atiku campaign clash. Benue court affirms Ayu suspension, adjourns case till April 17. It is morally offensive for Ayu to remain chairman after electoral defeat. G5 camp. Only NEC can remove me, Ayu. Wike orders selfish, says Atiku Presidential Campaign Council. While, yes, the Daily Sun newspaper, more trouble for Ayu, more trouble for Ayu. And, of course, the Leadership newspaper reporting this story, PDP crisis deepens, confusion trails Ayu's suspension. The Daily Independent newspaper, PDP crisis deepens as court sacks Ayu. The war has just started. Governor Wike tells Ayu others. Now, with of course, PDP perpetually at war against itself. Ahead of 20...
That sounds familiar.
Yes, sounds familiar if you are a Malabite. Yes, to parody Professor Emmanuel Anyandele, then Vice Chancellor. I don't want to refer to the community he used that to describe, but I think it fits the bill when you're talking about PDP since 2014, yes, when some governors walked out of the convention. It has been just the same pattern. Ahead of the 2023 election, we know the problem that emanated from the PDP convention, where Atiku emerged as the candidate of the party. And since then, it has been things falling apart for the PDP, and this played all the way till the election. With the G5 governors expanded to be called Integrity Group, working against their own party with no apologies to anybody. And now, Ayu has been the center of the storm because the G5 governors said he has to go. But we must put it in context. Who brought Ayu in the first place? Who fought Uche Secondus to a standstill that he had to leave? The same pattern, suspension, court, and of course, Secondus had to leave because some persons believed, they thought the winning the party ticket was a done deal. And as such, they had to position a new chairman who would be from the north. But that did not happen. And of course, Ayu did not help matters when he himself, in the morning after the convention, declared that Governor Aminu Tambuwal, who stepped down for Atiku to sway the votes at the convention, was the real hero of that convention. And of course, since then, Wike had led a group. But these party members, they don't even seem to believe that their party is still challenging the results of the presidential election at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. And it's as if it's all over. Ayu led the party to defeat, and as such, we should go for his jugular once and for all. But what will happen to the PDP in the days ahead. But a court in Benue State has ruled that Ayu should stop parading himself as the chairman of the PDP. But I will not be surprised if Ayu himself is able to obtain a ruling somewhere to counter that. It is the way of politicians. But let's see how it pans out. But other stories, the Guardian newspaper, yes, the Guardian newspaper, Nigerians have right to choose their leader, says Boris Johnson. Yes, Boris Johnson, former British Prime Minister, was in town yesterday at the Anyam Osigwe Foundation lecture, and he tasked politicians on helping citizens unleash their potential. Of course, that was a well-attended talk yesterday. Emeka Anyoku, and former Secretary General of
Chief
the Common
Emeka Anyogu.
Chief Emeka Anyogu, thank you, Ruben, was also there amongst other dignitaries. But of course, Boris Johnson giving lecture, telling our politicians what they ought to do for the citizenry. Now, the other story that, of course, should interest everybody. Front page of this day, ICC accepts petition against Onanuga. Orders over alleged incitement. Says acknowledgement meant nothing yet. But where is it a good development? It's unfortunate that within our own space, we don't hold people to account within the ambit of extant laws, because even the Electoral Act 2022 yes, talked about threatening, making inflammatory statements as offense, as electoral offense. But since nobody seemed to be taking that very seriously, by the way, the police just released a list of over 100 persons they arrested for electoral offenses. What will become of that remains to be seen. But the petition to the International Criminal Court for now does not translate to much, because in receiving that petition, the ICC stated, please note, this acknowledgement letter does not mean an investigation has been opened or that an investigation will be opened by the office of the prosecutor. Of course, as soon as the ICC decides on what to do with that petition, I'm sure they will make their position known to everybody and they will make it public. Now, if we just look at the foreign newspapers quickly, before the foreign newspapers, let's look at Daily Trust, because we cannot go through the review without talking about the state of the Naira. Queues persist as Nigerians hoard Naira notes. POS operators mop up cash at ATMs. Charges drop to 100 Naira per 1,000. Hoarders will have their fingers burnt. CBN, Emefiele urges NLC to shelve protest. Well, money is being dispensed at the ATMs. Still queues in many parts of Lagos and other parts of the country. We hope this will continue so that we don't have queues anymore. But what will happen before December 31? CBN has to make some clarity so that people don't keep hold notes when they receive them, and December 31 will start scrambling again. There should be gradual phase out so that by December 31, there's no old note anywhere. It's been pulled out of the system and Nigerians will just enter the new year smoothly. We don't want to see Nigerians queuing on the eve of New Year because of old Naira notes almost still in circulation. Now, if we just look at the foreign newspapers quickly, yes, the story that is, of course, Financial Times, Netanyahu delays judicial reform after day of protest paralyzes Israel. Minister sacking sparks anger. Tens of thousands on streets. President urges change of course. Now, the Jerusalem Post also reporting that story. Yes, Netanyahu calls temporary halt to judicial overhaul. Ben-Gvir, demand for National Guard accepted to prevent government failing. Now, bowing to the will of the people, but it's temporary. I hope Netanyahu will not revive this. But Of course, Netanyahu is having his own Nixon moment, if you will, Reuben and Rufai, as the Jerusalem Post is analyzing this morning.
So, a couple of things about Benjamin Netanyahu, and I'd like to talk about Netanyahu and President Macron. Netanyahu is currently fighting something. There's a bill to be able to sort of equalize the power of the judiciary in Israel. Because as we speak today, Israeli judges are only elected by fellow judges. You don't have the input of the Knesset in there. So what this bill is hoping to do is to have the input of the Knesset in trying to, appoint judges in Israel and probably get everybody to have an input on it. Also, there's another clause they are pushing, which is the clause that Netanyahu has now said they're going to drop in it. The fact that most Supreme Court judgments in Israel are to be reviewed now or can be set aside if the Knesset votes in a majority against them. So the argument from the Netanyahu camp is that, hey, the Supreme Court is too powerful. They pretty much run the lives of everybody and all of that. The people are saying, no, it's because you, Netanyahu, you're currently in court. You have a case in court that is being tried. And that's why he's not part of all of this, because he doesn't have a right, since there's a case that he's facing in court. Let's see how that passes. Just like what is happening to Macron. Macron is trying to push for pension reforms and people are dead on the street. But most importantly, the people power always win.
Well, I wanted to talk about Britain, where yesterday the Scottish National Party elected Humza Yousaf, 37 years old, first ethnic minority leader of Scotland as First Minister, and who won very narrowly with about 52.1% of the total votes cast to 48%, which Kate Forbes got. But what is likely to happen? He says he's going to continue with Nicola Sturgeon's transgender reforms, well, which of course was very controversial. 2, he says he's going to embark on plans to amend divisions. 3, he says he's going to return to the issue of the Scottish national independence. And, these are very serious issues. So he's coming into power with divisions in his party. 2, with Rishi Sunak saying that he will do whatever it takes to protect and defend the union. So we have interesting times ahead in Scotland. Would Humza Yousaf, will he be able to provide the necessary leadership? Today, the Scottish Greens, they've promised, to endorse him. And once they endorse him, he becomes effectively the First Minister. But the issue will be the politics and the policies and the pace that he brings to the assembly.
Well, another leader of Asian descent.
Can you imagine? Rishi Sunak, leader of England, Asian descent. Humza, leader of Scotland, Asian descent. Leo Varadkar, former Irish Prime Minister, Asian descent.
No,
but here in Nigeria, you people are fighting over.
Where I'm going, before long, we will say Nigeria local in Britain.
Anyway, Manuel, thank you.